The fact that the majority of this country today is against this president and against this war has everything to do with the massive protests that we were part of waging before this war even began. These protests changed the way millions of people thought. It delegitimized this regime, and it planted questions and doubts in the minds of millions of more. And as the war deteriorated, this challenge we put from the beginning is reverberating in people, it's circulating in people's minds, it's influencing how they react. And it has everything to do with why yesterday or today, front page of the New York Times says even military families who've been supportive of this war are starting to lose faith, are starting to lose support of this war. It has to do with why there are soldiers in Iraq right now who are refusing to carry out illegal orders. It has everything to do with why there are GIs coming back and speaking out against war crimes and crimes against humanity that they witnessed in Iraq. And it has everything to do with why this government is so threatened right now, because they know this sentiment could be even more widespread and could come forward, why they're so threatened that they're going after and targeting people like Liam Madden and Reverend Yearwood who are speaking out from within the military. And all this has to do with the fact that people got out there and challenged the war from the beginning. We can affect things. And the problem has never been that protest doesn't matter or protest doesn't make a difference. The problem is then that there has not been nearly enough protest, not nearly enough resistance, and we need a society-wide upheaval on a scale that is actually commensurate with the crimes being committed. Yeah. People across the country, much less in Iraq, cannot see the letters that people write to their congressmen. The letters which, if you remember that scene from Michael Moore's last movie, largely go straight into the garbage. We have to be in the streets. We have to be visible. This is the way the world will know that we oppose what is being done in our names. And it's only if we're in the streets in massive numbers and repeatedly that the resistance can spread, which it needs to other quarters of society. It needs to spread onto the campuses and into the professional associations, like the librarians who are refusing to turn over records, or the psychologists who are refusing to go along with torture. Our resistance needs to encompass resolutions to impeach, from local government, from churches and unions. Our resistance needs more whistleblowers, like Daniel Ellsberg back during the Vietnam War, who released the Pentagon Papers, or General Taguba today, who has exposed Rumsfeld and George Bush's involvement in Abu Ghraib. We need more prominent people putting their reputations on the line, signing the call for the world can't wait, and refusing to shut up, even if it costs them their job, like Rosie O'Donnell. Our resistance needs to respond in real time to turning points, to critical turning points. And for one, an attack on Iran cannot be allowed to go down the way the troop surge was, with barely any response. Our resistance needs to take hold in the culture and the music, forging a whole different ethos, a defiant way to live, giving people the courage of their convictions. And all this has to be galvanized into an independent political force with the moral authority that changes the way people look at and respond to everything that this regime does and says. So that each new outrage, instead of demoralizing and paralyzing people, spurs many who were not with us yesterday to join us today because they see the resistance out there. And I want to repeat that because this is a different dynamic than what people have seen in the last few years, and it's one that we have to grasp and go out and create. So that each new outrage, instead of demoralizing and paralyzing people, spurs many who were not with us yesterday to join us today because they see people out there resisting. And through this, we need to get into and open up the big questions about the nature of the society we live in, where these dangers in this regime came from, and what kind of future is possible. This movement needs people, and I'm glad, and I'm sure there are many of you here today who believe firmly in the principles on which this country was founded, who see the Bush regime tearing up the Republic and want to restore the Constitution. And we need people like myself, a supporter of the Revolutionary Communist Party, and others who see that same Constitution as a charter for a society based on exploitation, whether it be outright slavery, enshrined in that document when it was written, or the system of capitalist exploitation and wage slavery it has ushered in today. People who see that Constitution as a charter for oppression since the time this country counted black people as mere 3/5 human, to where the horrific and shameful handling of Hurricane Katrina and the racial cleansing of New Orleans have laid bare the living legacy of slavery, of Jim Crow, of lynchings and segregation that are not an aberration, but but systemic to the fabric and the fabric of this society and the way this country has always been run.
That's right.
And as we debate whether the republic should be saved or whether this republic should be replaced with a whole different kind of society, we need this whole spectrum and many more coming together because we have to learn from each other and because none of the futures that any of us want, from whatever perspective we have in this room today and out in society, none of these futures are possible if we allow the fascist trajectory that this regime has set into motion to take its course. Cindy Sheehan described feeling like we are up against a wall of impenetrable marble. But this marble is full of fissures, and it is riddled with contradictions. A war that cannot be won, an empire that is hated by people the world over, women and gays who will not easily be forced back in a box, Americans who don't believe that their lives are worth more than Iraqis, immigrants who are refusing to live like slaves in the shadows, atheists who are writing best-selling novels, bestsellers, scientists and students who are fighting for evolution. And all this latent power has to be brought together. We have to go out and bring this together and unleash it as an independent political force aimed at driving out this regime. This can be done. A small grouping of highly motivated people who direct their energies towards mobilizing others can pry open the cracks and differences in the halls of power. One of the most important things literally everyone here can do that will really matter is, as Anastasia put it, declare yourself. Wear orange. Orange is an urgent color. It is the color assigned to the people who've been disappeared, detained, tortured in Guantanamo and black sites around the world. And this color must become the color of a gathering sentiment to end all this. This campaign, Declare Yourself, Wear Orange, is designed to bridge the intolerable situation we're stuck in right now, where the majority opposes the regime, but where this opposition is largely invisible. Where people are overwhelmed, they feel isolated, they don't have a sense of our strength. To get people to see themselves and each other as a political force that can act independent of the '08 elections, that can act independent of the Democratic Party, that can act together because we have the numbers and the will and the potential strength to affect history ourselves. On Orange Fridays especially, we want people to not just wear orange everywhere they go, but to gather in public places, manifesting in growing crowds here and across the country every Friday in the streets. Where are we doing that here in San Francisco?
Fisherman's Wharf.
Fisherman's Wharf.
What? Afternoon, July 27th to start it out.
July 27th, everybody write this down. July 27th, this is being launched across the country. In New York, in Philly, in Alabama, and here in San Francisco, people are coming out on Orange Fridays. And it's at Fisherman's Wharf on the afternoon of July 27th here in San Francisco. So, pardon me?
What time?
Meeting at 1.
Meeting at 1. Definitely get that down. If orange goes societal, it can make a huge difference. Delegitimizing this regime, breaking people's isolation, bringing to the surface what is now hidden, strengthening and synergizing with other acts of resistance. So before you leave today, get some orange and wear it everywhere every day. But don't just get some orange for yourself. Get a dozen bandanas or 3 dozen bandanas. Get some ribbons or some buttons so that everywhere you go, when somebody asks you, you say why you're wearing it and you have some to give them too. This has to spread and everybody here can play a role in that. And then this fall, as developments in Iraq and preparations for a war on Iran are likely to come to a head, this orange, having gone societal by then, will make a huge difference in what kind of resistance can be pulled forward. And we are going to need, and I think there's a basis to have, especially if people start to see each other in this way, for upsurges and outpourings on a scale we have not seen in years. And this is going to be necessary, and this orange is a really crucial part of getting there, and a crucial thing in its own right, so that everywhere a camera pans, everywhere that somebody goes, they see people taking a stand saying, this regime is illegitimate, it doesn't speak for us, and we are not stopping until we drive it out.
Yeah.